if I can turn back the hands of time, I'd do things totally different. I know I messed up, but I was young and I just made some bad decisions. And just give me the opportunity to show you that I am a different person. I just want a second chance, that's all.
That was Alonzo Goines. He was 19 when he was sentenced to 25 years in prison in Alabama for a string of robberies. He said those words to me from an Alabama prison the night before one of the biggest moments of his life. I was there with the documentary crew, and what I witnessed changed me forever. Today we're talking about Alabama's parole system, a system so broken it once denied parole to a man who had been dead for 12 days. And we're talking about whether or not things might actually be changing, because for the first time in years, there might be a real reason to hope. So a few years ago, I traveled to Alabama to film a documentary with Vice News, where I was a producer at the time. I was following a man named Alonzo Goines, who had spent his final teenage years and all of his 20s behind bars in Alabama, and he was finally coming up for parole. What I found was a system that on paper was designed to give people a second chance, but in reality, it had become something entirely different.
It is the unanimous decision of the board that parole will be denied at this time. Terry Killingsworth, denied at this time. Greg Boyington, parole will be denied at this time. In the matter of Jackie Burton's application for a pardon, that application will be fully denied.
It was a system that was seemingly focused on keeping as many people behind bars for as long as possible. By 2023, the year I was making this documentary, Alabama's Pardon and Parole Board was denying parole for roughly 90% of eligible applicants. And for black applicants like Alonzo, their odds were even worse, being denied up to 93% of the time. I sat in that hearing room and I watched Alonzo's mother get exactly 2 minutes to explain why her son deserved to come home.
I don't do this, but I'm begging you, please. It's been 15 years. And I know he's remorseful, so I'm just asking, would you please give him a second chance? Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 2 minutes to speak, and 5 minutes later, Alonzo's parole was denied, set back another 4 years.
In the matter of parole for Alonzo Goines, it is the unanimous decision of the board that parole will be denied at this time and will be reconsidered in 4 years in September of 2026.
And then I watched his father make that phone call no parent wants to make.
All right, well, they denied parole. It's hard to understand. It's hard to grasp what they're trying to accomplish. But everybody that was in there with us, they denied parole for everybody.
The crazy part about this was Alonzo wasn't even in the room. He couldn't speak for himself. At the time, incarcerated people weren't allowed to attend their own parole hearings. Sometimes they had no one in the room vouching for them. They were just a name on a list of 40 other applicants the board would deny that day. You could hear Alonzo's voice through the phone, not on loudspeaker, but loud enough to hear. That hope he had held onto for 15 years, dissolving in real time.
I need you to stay strong, Alonzo, please. I know it, baby. I know it. I know you've been staying strong for years, but please.
It was genuinely one of the most heartbreaking moments of my journalistic career. So how did Alabama's parole system end up like this? Well, it all goes back to 2018, when a man was granted parole and went on to commit a very high-profile murder. His name was Jimmy Spencer, and he went on to murder 3 people, including a 7-year-old boy. Needless to say, the public outcry was enormous, and Alabama's response was swift and sweeping. Following this incident, the entire parole board changed, the chair changed, and parole grant rates plummeted into the single-digit percentages. We're talking less than 10% of eligible applicants being granted parole. To understand the magnitude of this shift, I spoke to State Representative Chris England, who is one of the most important figures in this story. And England told me the board was denying pretty much anyone who came before them.
That was the event that just changed the trajectory of pardons and parole in the state of Alabama.
Before that moment, parole was being granted upwards of about 50%. After, the floor fell out completely. And here's the thing. Even if you were doing everything right, your chances of being granted parole were extremely slim. And it got so bad that in 2024, the board denied parole to Fred Bishop, who had died 12 days earlier. And he wasn't the only one. Multiple deceased people had their parole denied by the board since 2022. If you're deemed too dangerous to be returned to society while dead, what are your chances while you're alive? Representative England put it plainly to me.
It seems like it's a concerted effort to dehumanize people. So like if you're having a parole hearing and it's just basically a number and a name on a sheet of paper, it becomes more difficult to make a real assessment of the situation when you don't have what would be crucial to making that decision, which is the presentation from the person.
And here's what gets lost in policy conversation. Hope isn't just a nice thing to have, a luxury. In prison, it's functional. It's what keeps people working towards rehabilitation. It's what creates the incentive to earn certifications, to take jobs, to work on yourself, to become a better person. And Alonzo was doing all of that. He had a job. He'd taken all the courses. He had minimal infractions while he was in prison. He was working for the prison out in the community, oftentimes unsupervised, working for cents on the hour. And none of it mattered. He was still denied. Without hope, Alabama's prisons have spiraled into some of the most dangerous in the country for incarcerated people and correctional officers alike. In 2025, 202 people died in Alabama's prisons. And the painful irony, again, is that many of those people being deemed too dangerous to return to society were already returning to society day in, day out to work for the prison. Oftentimes, there was no guard even supervising them. They were trusted enough to go out and work for a fraction of minimum wage for the prison, for the state, and be trusted to self-report back to prison at the end of the day. One has to ask themselves what this system has to gain from not letting these people out who are working day in, day out for the prison and the state. Okay, so here's where things start to shift. A glimmer of hope, if you will. After years of scrutiny from journalists, advocates, even the people behind bars, and the Oscar-nominated Alabama Solution, which is an incredible documentary about Alabama's prison system, finally it seems like the state has started to move in the right direction. New legislation, authored by Representative Chris England, forces the board to take into consideration what it once routinely ignored: work history, education, efforts at reform, behavior while incarcerated, the things that tell you who a person is now, today, rather than the person they were 25 years ago when they committed a crime.
It seemed like some of these things would never happen here, but we're actually starting to see a significant change in how we do things. They say the old saying is like big ships turn slow, but this one is beginning to turn.
And here's the change that seems almost embarrassingly overdue. Finally, incarcerated people will be able to vouch and speak for themselves in their parole hearings. Virtually, but somewhat still face-to-face. And when you're face-to-face with someone, that person becomes human.
You know, you get a chance to kind of lay eyes on that person, listen to them speak or talk about their situation, and you begin to understand that's not just a name and a number on a piece of paper.
For people inside, that alone could change everything. Not because it guarantees release, but because it means you get to be seen as a human being while your fate is being decided. You get to feel seen, like you matter as a human being, despite your previous mistakes. The question still remains if reforms like this will actually lead to a more just system, or whether they'll just create the appearance of a fairer process. England himself is cautiously optimistic.
But I don't want this to get lost in the sense that this progress that we're making, there's still a backdrop of one of the most inhumane, unconstitutional, and just humanitarian crisis level that we have within our prison system today. It's still terrible. I don't necessarily look at this as a situation where more people will get released. But what I do hope is that the process is more exhaustive. It's more substantive.
Better decisions, not necessarily more lenient ones. And even that would be a significant departure from what we've seen. But here's the thing. Alabama is still in the process of building a massive new facility. In fact, it's being dubbed a mega prison. It's a $1.25 billion project. It will have 5,000 beds to fill, and it will be named the Governor K. Ivey Correctional Complex. Once built, it will be one of the largest prisons in the country. And let me be super clear here. Alabama does need new prisons. Their current prison facilities are outdated, crumbling, being investigated for violence and abuse, and are in desperate need of updating. That is a fact. But Representative England is clear about what this new prison won't fix.
Or you don't want to put old problems in a new building.
Right.
A new building will not address the rampant corruption and abuse that occurs in our facilities, right? We still have some of the most abusive and corrupt corrections officers who were exposed in that Alabama solution as beating a man brutally to death, still working in our facility.
And let's be honest about the economics here, because building prisons is big business in Alabama. More beds, of course, mean more people needed to fill them. And the exploitation of incarcerated labor is pretty much embedded in Alabama's economy. When Alonzo was denied parole back in 2022, his mother's friend said something very interesting while comforting her.
It's about that new prison. They want to fill them up.
That's not necessarily a conspiracy theory. That's a fair question to ask when the financial incentives repeatedly point in one direction and the outcomes match them.
I mean, one of the biggest economic development projects in the state of Alabama is building prisons. We depend on incarcerated citizens to fill a lot of voids in our economy. Leasing of the labor is a multi-million-dollar business for the state of Alabama.
So where's Alonzo today? I actually speak to him on a regular basis. He's 34 years old now. He's been incarcerated for 15 years. His mother, Martha, is currently struggling with kidney failure. He wants to go home to be there with her for her final years. He wants to start his own family before it's too late. He wants to build a life outside of prison. And in September, he'll face the board once again. But this time, things will be a little different, because for the first time, Alonzo will be able to present his own case to the board about how he's changed and about how he deserves a second chance. Representative England put it plainly to me.
Sometimes it's not if, it's when, and we're at the point where we finally have gotten there on some very basic things.
But he was also clear with me about why he doesn't want to get too excited just yet.
I don't want that ray of sunshine to make people think that it's still not raining.
Right.
I want to make sure we juxtapose the progress that we're making with paroles with the lack of progress that's going on inside our facilities where we're still treating people inhumanely and unconstitutionally. As I say all the time, our criminal justice system is absolutely broken.
Yeah.
100%. There is just a whole bunch of work left to be done.
And that's that tension that we have to hold here. Hope, but also reality. And if you want to watch the documentary I made about Alonzo's case back in 2022 for Vice News, I'm going to link it in my Substack. And if you want to watch my full interview with Representative Chris England, it's on my Substack page and it's also on my YouTube. And if this video resonated with you, please do share it. But for now, I'm Gabby, and I'll see you on the next one.